right, Industry 45 Quick Spin with Shane Christopher Neal here with Mr. Lawrence Gowan. Thank you for joining us on the Industry Show.
Shane.
I want to start, you've had such a great career as a solo artist and then with Styx, of course. So when you're 19 years old and you're at the Royal Conservatory and you're today probably one of the best pianists around here, and what did you kind of learn from back then, if you can recall, because I know it was a long time ago, that's kind of really helped your career because, man, you're really known for how you play the piano.
Well, I guess I'm an example of how adept the Royal Conservatory system is in Toronto. I'm proud of the fact that I went there. I mean, there are all sorts of ways that you can learn to play an instrument. You don't have to take formal education at all. My two favorite musicians of all time, Lennon and McCartney, I don't think they ever took a music lesson in their lives. So that's not it. But I learned at the time when I came into rock, the musicianship of like Elton John, Rick Wakeman, Keith Emerson, Tony Banks, those keyboard players, really, Freddie Mercury, they were kind of there was this next level up that had a lot of classical influence in there, and I liked classical music, but I realized if I want to be a keyboard player, I'm going to have to basically learn from the ground up how these guys learned. And I noticed, look, they all went to the Royal Academy in England. The same thing as the Royal Conservatory here, so I'll focus on that.
Right.
So I think that, and just basically, before every show, Shane, I do all the same scales and
Really,
exercises.
Yeah.
2 hours before every show, so that my fingers are ready to kind of, that I don't have to really think of, or whatever they can kick, whatever they can still kick at this point. Yeah.
So talk about Rheingold too.
Sure.
So that was your first, I guess, big band. And so
anyway.
Yeah. And so, what did you kind of learn from that experience before you went off as just Gowan?
Rheingold never made an album, but we played about 80% original material, a lot in this area. We played Uncle Sam's, we played Welland and Thorold and St. Catharines, of course. And we really learned how to hold an audience. That was really, I think, when I think back on those 5 years, we figured out, you'd go into a beer hall where people are not that interested in a band, and we'd find a way to draw their interest toward the stage. And I really think that's the thing that carried forward when it came to making rock videos for me as Gowan.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I was looking at the television screen and coming up with the storyboards and the ideas for those videos was very similar to, well, it's almost like this is the club now, and how do we make people focus on that and just get these melodies in their heads?
So in '82, you come up with an album.
Yes,
It didn't do very well at the time.
It did not.
So give me, if you can recall, what the space in your head was like at that time. So you don't have a very good album. You're in Toronto. You're on Queen Street. You're probably still playing at some of the clubs. And that's just before the magical album come out in '85. So kind of what was your headspace like to get to a point where you could deliver greatness, which you did obviously in Strange Animal?
Thank you. Well, there's a great saying that, anyone who's a success has probably failed at least 100 times. Okay, so in terms of sales, the first record would be an industry failure, but a failure that I learned a lot from. And what's very curious is that over the subsequent years, a lot of people say that's their favorite album. They go back and they discover that one. Yeah, it's nearly gold now, but I mean at the time, they had really high expectations from it. I'd signed a big record deal with Columbia Records, and they were one of the big four, the mighty labels. And they had high expectations for it because they had just come off great success with Loverboy, and here's our next one. But timing is so critical to everything in show business.
Yes.
The luck factor, Shane, that's out there that you really don't have any control over. It either smiles on you on the day that your record is released, or it decides the gods of rock go, it's not your turn yet. Just wait in line. And that's kind of what happened with my first album. We'll play a song from that album tonight, Keep Up the Fight. It's still a motto for me, and it was one of the last songs with Rheingold. It was the first kind of track they went with off the first album, and I still enjoy playing it.
So with Strange Animal, how long did it take you to write this album? And I know you recorded at the Ringo Starr's
at his home.
Yeah.
So
I think you posted something recently about that
very
on social
recently
media.
because it was the 35th. Good man, thank you for doing that. It was the 35th anniversary of February 7th of 1984. Was the day that I walked into Ringo Starr's home, and it was formerly John. He got the house from John Lennon, who had made Imagine there. It was a phenomenal experience that I was there for about 6 months, and he would come in periodically, usually every couple of days, make really supportive comments on the record as it was coming to life. And the main thing I remember, I wonder if he would, but is there was one night he came in right as the album was being mixed, and he said, I told you, I think your record sounds good. I think it sounds really good.
So,
and just the way he said that, it gave me this sense of confidence of like, if he likes it,
can you endorse that, please?
There's a chance that maybe some other people like it. Because I remember at first being so, kind of, I had a lot of confidence, but I was a little intimidated, thinking, God, he's going to hear me in here. The guys are around. How does this? Because the kitchen was just right connected to the studio.
Yes.
I'm in there going like, well, how does this song go? Okay, it goes, a criminal mind is all. I'm playing it on the piano. I'm thinking, he's in there going like, I remember that day Paul came in and said, here's a song. He goes, hey Jude. I'm thinking, how is he correlating those two in his mind? At the time, of course, he was probably busy, just basically eating his breakfast. But over the course of making that record, I began to realize there is an audience for this. I don't know how big that audience is. It could be a few diehard fans, but it might be, some people will find this and enjoy it.
So I think when it came out in '85, now Much Music is now, so now you've got the perfect platform.
There's the timing.
You're theatrical,
Yeah.
you have a great show, you've got great songs, and now you have somebody that's going to play it 24/7.
And that's the luck factor. I had nothing to do with Much Music suddenly being at the center of the music industry in Canada, but I did have, I'd had the background enough to be able to put something that was entertaining on television. Worked with a fantastic team. There was a great director named Rob Courtley, his company that put together the Criminal Mind video. I wanted to put animation in there, and it was tough to get it done, but we found the team that did the Snap, Crackle, and Pop commercials. Remember those? Yeah. They wound up doing the animation, and the moment that we came to I kept asking them, when I grabbed the baton, it turns into a flashlight from the headmaster sort of thing, and do the I am into the camera, make that turn into a cartoon, and that cartoon moment I knew was something that was going to stay with me. And it's still, it's right there on the front of the drums.
Yeah. So after the album, now you're going to make another album.
Yeah.
So now you have pressure of delivering.
Entirely, yes.
So what was that kind of like for you? You came up with some great songs. Moonlight Desires was awesome.
Thank you. Well, that Moonlight Desires is actually my most successful song ever, and Awake the Giant did really well as well. That was the second single. That's where this is the part of the career where there was all this. I was managed by Ray Daniels who managed Rush.
Yep, Rush.
And he was trying to figure a way to get me really focused on in the United States. So I'd done a tour with Tears for Fears. I'd opened for Foreigner, and there were pockets in America that were buying the records a lot, but on import. But that's right where the whole industry lock began to kind of grind, in various ways. They'd printed up 25,000 copies of Great Dirty World in Germany, and suddenly that became a pawn that was played back and forth between them and the U.S. It's a dull story. I can definitely put you, if anyone's going to bed right now, I'll put you to sleep with it. But it ultimately led to all kinds of little industry difficulties that I had at that period. But what triumphed in the end was just going out and playing live all the time, and playing in front of a few thousand people every night would be a way of reinforcing that, no, there's something really valid here that people want. I just have to find a way to get it to them in a most effective way.
So in 90, was it 90 or early 90s anyway, when Lost Brotherhood came out? Was it 90? Okay, so that
90.
was your first U.S. release?
Well,
is that right?
It was the first U.S. release, but it was a very tertiary release. We managed to move over to Atlantic Records, and they put out the first single, but only in key markets. And again, it didn't blossom into a national.
Is that frustrating
release.
though? You'd been around for a long time. You were proven as an artist.
Yeah, it was definitely a frustration. You're always looking, kind of going, how can it be number one here, and just a few miles away, people are going, I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
So yes, and all artists kind of face. As I've gone around the world, I've met many artists who have very regional success. In Germany or in Sweden or in England, for example. I remember Paul Weller from the Jam. I mean, he was at Wembley Stadium,
right?
And I remember the Jam coming here and playing in clubs, and you'd wonder, how can this be? And it's just basically who discovered the music, how it was promoted on the day.
Right.
And no, so I'm not any different. I was caught in that, but some found a way to survive, and so somehow I did.
Speaking of surviving, you've done it very well, but in May of 1999, something changed your life, I'm sure, and your brand, so you joined Styx.
Yes.
And so how has that been for you? Obviously, it's been amazing to play with Styx, but how has that helped your brand as Gowan, obviously?
I think the great thing, and you'll see this tonight, Shane, the great thing I love when I play these solo shows is on some nights, there are as many American in the audience as I went at the Falls View. Yeah, it was half and half one night. I was asking, just a quick little poll, not profiling, just taking a poll. And it's amazing how many Americans have discovered the whole Gowan catalog in retrospect.
Because of Styx?
Because we're in this era now where people do their own programming and discover their own music and what resonates with them and what connects with them.
Right.
So this is why, when people ask quite often, why do you think so many younger people, how did they find out about this? The obvious answer 10 years ago was, oh, they heard it from their parents, or they heard it from an older brother or sister. That's no longer the case. So often now, people who weren't even born when some of these records were made, they've discovered it themselves because the internet opened up this other avenue to go, well, I've heard of Led Zeppelin, but I've never actually, oh, that's what that is. Oh, well, that reminds me of, Royal Blood, this new band that sounds like it's connected to that. Or I listened to Genesis, and it's like, oh, I also like Yes, and John Anderson is on this Gowan. Who's Gowan? Oh, Gowan plays with Styx. And
So we're putting all the pieces together.
Exactly. It's like an anthropological study, kind of like Sam Dunn did with Headbanger's Journey with that movie.
Yes.
If you think about it. And I think younger people are engaged in that, and they come out. I mean, I love at the end of the night, I see guys that are like teenagers who are holding Great Dirty World or Strange Animal, and as if it's a brand new record to them.
Right.
I mean, I'm really fortunate. As long as I don't maim myself
Yes,
on stage
that's true,
too
yes.
badly, I can enjoy this a little while longer.
Listen, I know you have to go do a sound check,
Yeah.
but it's been awesome to chat with
Shane,
you. And his name is
Lovely.
Lawrence Gowan. You can call him Larry,
Okay.
and you can check out the show when it comes to your hometown. You can check them out with Styx as well. They're not so bad.
They're not so bad.
All right. Industry 45, Quick Spin Show. Shane Christopher Neal.
Thanks, Shane.